the increasing role and the emerging role of Israel as a world power. And that's why we can talk, I think, of the beginnings of what we would call Pax Judaica, which is, I think, replacing Pax Americana. Now, of course, Pax, that phrase, Pax Britannica, Pax Americana, Pax Judaica, that's a phrase which suggests a global hegemon, which is able to impose peace on the world or stability of some sort for a significant number of years, or for an era, let's say, as we've seen with Pax Americana since 1945. But of course, it doesn't mean actual peace. It doesn't mean either social peace in the relevant hegemon, the state of the hegemon, nor does it mean international peace. Of course, all the way through this period, we saw the decolonization processes leading to the emergence of independent countries from Britain. People put out that list, don't they, of these are the countries that China has invaded in the last 50 years. And here's the number of countries invaded by the US, sometimes repeatedly. So we know that that doesn't mean peace, but it means hegemony, it means control, it means that Israel is becoming a pole of influence, which it never was before.
All right, so first things first, let's get us a definition for this word here. Hegemony or hegemony, okay? Just depends on how you pronounce it. But for the most part, I've always heard people pronounce it hegemony, all right? But anyway, what does it mean? Leadership or dominance, especially by one country or social group over others, okay? So when you hear the word hegemony, it's about one group or country dominating another, all right? Let's see what AI Overview has to say about it. Hegemony is the dominance or leadership of one group, state, or ideology over others, achieved not just by force, but by gaining consent through cultural, political, or economic influence, making its ideas seem like common sense, okay? So basically, they change your way of life because they try to make your beliefs become their beliefs, right? So they basically instill their beliefs on you, right? And then they dominate you, whether through military or whatever, okay? But anyway, originating from Greek for leader, okay, it historically described city-states, but evolved notably through Gramsci's theory to explain how a ruling class maintains power by shaping societal values and norms, okay, so basically your beliefs, creating a pervasive cultural hegemony, all right? Okay, next we'll go into AI Overview and talk about this term, Pax Judaica, okay, because it's important for us to understand this for this video. Pax Judaica, Latin for Jewish peace, okay, and as you've seen what the guy said, they always talk about peace, but yet these are the most warmongering people, you know, ever throughout history, you know what I'm saying? Whenever they call for peace, it's going to be the opposite, right? They order out of chaos. They create the chaos. They create, you know what I mean, the wars and all this, and then try to get peace to come up out of that, right? But anyway, Pax Judaica, Latin for Jewish peace, is a term used in various, often conflicting contexts, primarily describing either a hopeful vision of Israel achieving regional stability through appeasement, or more commonly, in online conspiracy theories. So see, there it goes, right? It's always a conspiracy theory when it's something about what they're doing. But what are they doing over there in Palestine, right? Pax Judaica. They're basically controlling and taking over everything, right? They're dominating the Palestinians. So how is it a conspiracy theory when they're actually doing it, right? A feared future global control by a Jewish power structure using AI and surveillance. So see, now they're starting to say why they're saying it's a conspiracy theory, because people have found out that part of the plans is for them to establish this global control by using AI and surveillance. And that's what everybody was saying that they were doing in Palestine before all of this stuff jumped off. An apocalyptic concept rooted in anti-Semitic troops. So there it is again, right? Contrasting with Islamic ideas like Pax Islamica or Pax Romana for world order, okay? So you see now they're in control of AI Overview, right? You type this stuff in AI Overview and it's a conspiracy theory or whatever. So basically, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter that they're doing it. Everything has to be a conspiracy theory when it comes to them. All right, so with all that being said, all praise to our Heavenly Father, the Most High Yah, the great I am that I am. In the name of our Lord and Savior, some of y'all call him Yahushua, some of y'all call him Yahushua, some of y'all call him Jesus, right? All right, so basically what had happened, I saw Kim Iversen, you know what I mean, had done a clip, and she was talking about Pax Judaica. She had this Asian guy on here, which I'm going to show y'all here in a minute. And I'm like, Pax Judaica, okay, what is that? So I had to look into it, right? Then they talked about Pax Britannica, Pax Americana, and they're basically talking about how Britain gained control and power. Then after that came America, who gained control and power. And then eventually we're in a season where they're going to shift everything from America, meaning America's going to have to fall, and everything goes over to Israel. And you can see Israel right now is leading America, you know what I'm saying? By the tongue, right? They're just dragging America all along, right? So the bottom line is this actually what's going on? Is this why now, you know what I'm saying, everything is leaving from America and going over to Israel? Is Trump actually, you know what I'm saying, working on behalf of Israel to get America into all of these wars to the point that America is about to collapse, right? And you're going to see why in some of the reasoning in this video, all right? But then we're going to, and of course we're going to tie the scriptures in. But let's go to Kim Iversen's video and let's see, a little part of that, and we'll come back and discuss it.
Okay, let's talk about Pax Judaica. So you say right now we're in a Pax Americana, a Pax America or Pax Americana? What's the right term?
Yeah, Pax Americana. Pax Americana, yes.
And we're moving toward a Pax Judaica, which is what exactly?
Okay. So the year 1688, and this is the Glorious Revolution. This is when the King of England is overthrown by the nobility, and William of Orange, who is from the Dutch Republic, he's installed as the king. And this is significant because this creates the sovereignty of Parliament. So Parliament now is above the king. And what happens next is 1694, the creation of the Bank of England. And the Bank of England are these private interests, transnational capital. And the Bank of England, they are guaranteed by Parliament. And so this creates the idea that these private investors can lend money to the Bank of England, and if they make money, they keep their money. But if they lose money, then the Parliament, the people, guarantee their losses. So it's socialized losses, privatized gains. Okay, so this becomes the new model of global finance. Why this happens is that in Europe at this time, the world is in flames. So 30 Years' War, Protestants versus Catholics, and all these rich people, the Dutch Republic, the Habsburg Empire, the Catholic Church, they need to be able to store their wealth in a more safe place as the world burns. And the safest place at this time is of course England, because it's being protected by the Royal Navy. And so all this capital shifts over to England, and it's stored in the Bank of England. These private investors have control over this capital, but it's guaranteed by both the Royal Navy as well as by Parliament. And this allows for the creation of the British Empire. And it's a fantastic model because you fast forward 100 years and you have the rise of Napoleon. And Napoleon is this great conqueror, he conquers all of Europe. But Britain, through the Bank of England, they're able to finance 7 wars against Napoleon until Napoleon is finally defeated. And then England becomes the most dominant nation in the world. Okay, so this creates Pax Britannica.
All right, so now let's talk about Pax Britannica, because that's what he started off with and he opened up with. Okay, so this is basically how Britain ended up gaining power. Now remember, according to what we have seen before, Israel is still listed as a corporation over there in the UK, right? The United Kingdom, which is basically Britain, okay? Anyway, but Pax Britannica, Latin for British peace, right, refers to the period of relative tranquility and British global hegemony from approximately 1815 to 1914. So this is the time where they said really that Britain was pretty much, for the most part, running the world, okay? The historical era, 1815 to 1914, following the final defeat of Napoleon in 1815, because remember, Napoleon came from France, all right? Great Britain emerged as the world's sole superpower, a status maintained until the outbreak of World War I. Now, after World War I, then it shifted to America, all right? Now, anyway, global hegemony. The British Royal Navy dominated the seas, controlling key maritime trade routes and acting as a global policeman. What did we just talk about in that Minnesota and Somalia video about the trade routes, right? Shipping routes, okay? Anyway, imperial expansion. Known as Britain's imperial century, the empire added roughly 10 million square miles of territory and 400 million people during this time. Economic dominance. Britain promoted international free trade and the gold standard, okay? So this is what he was talking about. They would get investors to put their money, their gold in, you know what I'm saying? And if they made money, then, you know what I'm saying, they got to keep their money. But if they were losing money in their investments, they would just raise up tribute and make the people, you know what I'm saying, have to basically pay them. So it was almost like these people were able to invest and not lose anything. So of course, everybody's going to start putting their money over there. And when people start investing over there, it allowed Britain to get stronger and stronger, okay? So that's where it says economic dominance. Britain promoted international free trade and the gold standard, creating an informal empire through its overwhelming advantage in banking, shipping, and industrial production. Decline. The era ended as the industrialization of Germany, right, the United States, and Japan challenged British supremacy, leading to the collapse of the European balance of power in 1914. Now, here's the thing. Was it actually that, you know what I'm saying, the United States took power from Britain, or did they just move their operations to the United States, right? And in the meantime, you see the other country who was basically coming up that they basically destroyed was Germany. The same way how you see now a lot of times where it says everything made in China. If you were to go back to the 50s and 60s, you would see where a lot of things says made in Germany, right? Because Germany was an industrialized nation, and the Jewish people caused Germany to get defeated, not only in World War I, but also in World War II, okay? But anyway, let's go look at Pax Americana. All right, so we go to AI overview, and what do we see? Pax Americana, Latin for American peace, describes the post-World War II era starting 1945, a relative global stability and prosperity under the dominant military, economic, and cultural influence of the United States, characterized by U.S. leadership in security, open markets, and promotion of democratic values, though this order faces challenges and questions about its future. Now, what is the one thing that you did not see? When I read you about Pax Britannica, you didn't see anything in there about, conspiracy theories and all this type of stuff, right? Anti-Semitism and all this. You ain't seen none of that. When you talk about Pax Americana, you ain't see anything about, this is a conspiracy theory, anti-Americans, right? You ain't seen none of that stuff. But when you talk about Pax Judaica, it's a conspiracy theory, anti-Semitism and all this kind of garbage. You see how they control the internet, right? So anyway, let's get back to this. It says, key features include U.S. military alliances like NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, those are all the basic Europe, okay? And economic power like the Marshall Plan, but its hegemony is shifting with the rise of other powers like China, leading to debates about its decline and what comes next, right? Well, this is where everybody's saying what comes next is Pax Judaica, right? And that Israel is basically, trying to now, issue us out of Pax Americana, where now they come in and start setting up their kingdom. Now, this is where you get into Revelation, and this is where now, you know what I'm saying, we know these Jews who say they are Jews and are not, right? The Bible tells us that they are the synagogue of Satan. We know that this final kingdom that has to come to power, right? We know that they get their power from Satan, Lucifer, okay? Let's go there and let me show you. All right. Revelation 2:9, what does it say? I know thy works in tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews. So somebody's blaspheming by even saying they're Jews because they're not, right? And are not, but are the synagogue of Satan, okay? So we got people claiming to be Jews. We know, according to law and covenant, that if the true children of Israel do not accept Christ, they will not be the head, they will be the tail, right? We know that. We know that they will not be able to stand before their enemies. You would have to be the tail. You can't be the head. So how are these people now trying to position themselves to be the leaders of the world when they have no atonement. You can't sacrifice animals anymore, and they don't accept Christ, right? And yet here it is, these people want to become the leaders of the world because they get their power from Satan. Revelation 3:9, same thing. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee, right? So this is what we see. There's people that are running around here saying that they're Jews and they are not, but they're really the synagogue of Satan, right? Why Christian churches aren't teaching this is beyond me, right? Because it tells you clearly there's somebody who's running around here claiming to be a Jew and they're not, and they're the synagogue of Satan, right? So it would behoove everybody to be able to discern who are these people, right? All right, so next let's go Revelation chapter 12. What do we see? And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. All right, so we know 12 tribes of Israel. And she being with child cried, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his head. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. All right. And she brought forth a man-child who was to rule all nations. So we know who this man-child is. Yahusha, Yahawashah, some of y'all call him Jesus, right? She brought forth a man-child who was to rule all nations with the rod of iron. And her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. So we now know specifically that this is Yahusha, Yahawashah, Jesus, right? And the woman fled into the wilderness. Okay, this is what I was telling y'all the other day about the wilderness could also be the wilderness of the people, because we see from this point, Israel, once Christ was caught up, Israel was scattered. Israel fled into the wilderness, where she hath a place prepared of God that they should feed her there 1,260 days. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, right? And prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil. Okay, so now we see that this dragon is named as being the devil. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation and strength and kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down. So Satan got kicked out, and now he's down here in the earth, right? The accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb. So you don't overcome this devil except you come through Christ. Because we know that the Lamb of the Most High Yah is his only begotten Son. Some of y'all call him Yahusha. Some of y'all call him Yahawashah. Some of y'all call him Jesus. How do you overcome him? By the blood? The blood of his atonement, the sacrifice, right? So the bottom line is you either accept him or you don't, right? And we know these people claiming to be Jews don't, right? Anyway, and they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto the death. Therefore rejoice, you heavens, and you that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea. For the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. So that's exactly what has happened. This is why we have had all this drama down here in the earth, and the devil comes down here, and what is he? He's a liar and he's a thief, and he's been lying and deceiving everybody ever since. And now he takes on the mantle and tells everybody that he's a Jew when he's not. Those are his people, okay? Verse 13. And when the dragon saw that he was cast into the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child. So they've been persecuting Israel the whole time, right? And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place where she is nourished for a time and times and half a time from the face of the serpent. So remember, they tried to kill us. They were trying to destroy us. Satan was trying to kill Israel, right? And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandment of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. Okay? So now when we start talking, keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ, now we begin talking about everybody who believes and washes their garment in the blood of the Lamb. All right? All right, so I just read you Revelation 12. Now we got to talk Revelation 13. All right, I ain't going to go through all of it, but this is the final kingdom. Now remember, we just identified Satan has people, the synagogue of Satan, who claim to be Jews, right? But we also have to see that this final kingdom that's coming upon the earth has to get its power from who? Satan, right? 13. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon, okay, now we just defined that the dragon, according to scripture, is Satan, right? And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority, okay? So this final kingdom is a Luciferian, devil-worshiping kingdom, right? So it would make sense, is it after America, then we get this Pax Judaica. It would make sense, right? Because we know these are the synagogue of Satan who are sitting up here worshiping the devil, and the devil is giving them their power with great authority and his seat, right? So this is where we got to understand that. We'll come back to this maybe later, right? But for now, let's go back to the Kim Iversen clip.
And then, after World War I, World War II, this creates Pax Americana. Why? Because if capital is able to move to England, it's also able to move to America, right? And then you have the creation of a Federal Reserve. But now that America is burning, where do you go now? Well, you go to Israel. Why? Because first of all, Israel has nuclear weapons. So Israel will be safe. Second of all, the Middle East has been destroyed, right? Israel has no competitors. Iraq, Libya, Syria, they've all been burned to the ground. Iran is the last on the list. And so once you burn Iran to the ground, then Israel has complete dominance over the Middle East, and it can just rebuild the Middle East in a new image. And this new image will be one of AI surveillance. So ideas that you have, right? AI, digital currency, digital ID, you're going to face a lot of stiff resistance in America because Americans like their freedom. But hey, the Middle East has been destroyed. You can now replace your populations with Filipinos, with Chinese, with Indians, and then you can insert microchips into the bloodstreams, and now you have this perfect, surveillance state where everyone is monitored. But not only is everyone monitored, their emotions are constantly being calibrated, being controlled by their surveillance state. And so you basically have a slave state, and then you introduce transhumanism where all the rich people in the world, they can go to Jerusalem and experience all this transhumanist technology, organ transplants that allow them to live to 150 years. So that's the very idea of Pax Judaica, right? Capital needs to move to a more safe place, which is Israel, but also these oligarchs, they want to achieve a humanist vision of the world. And so Israel has this technology, but also they want to create a surveillance state in order to maintain permanent control of the world, and that's Pax Judaica.
All right, so next let's go back to the Albert Pike letter to Mazzini, okay? Now, I'm going to jump down here to the First World War. All right, so let's drop down. So the First World War must be brought about in order to permit the Illuminati to overthrow. So let's call the Illuminati the synagogue of Satan, all right? To allow the synagogue of Satan to overthrow the power of the czars in Russia, right? So they overthrew Russia and of making that country a fortress of atheistic communism. The divergences caused by the agents of the synagogue of Satan between the British and the Germanic empires. So we remember, I just told you, Britain and Germany was competing, but Britain basically had to find a way to defeat those people in Europe, or the synagogue of Satan had to find a way to do that. Okay. But anyway, will be used to foment this war. So this difference between Britain and Germany was used to foment a war to basically overthrow Russia, right? This is how cunning these people are. At the end of the war, communism will be built and used in order to destroy the other governments and in order to weaken the religions, right? The Second World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences between the fascists and the political Zionists, right? So now you see the synagogue of Satan at work again. They want to get a state of Israel, right, down here in the Holy Land. So now they got a problem with the fascists and they got a problem with the Zionists. So now we're going to put them at each other, okay? This war must be brought about so that Nazism is destroyed. So basically they were destroying Germany, okay? And that the political Zionism be strong enough to institute a sovereign state of Israel in Palestine, right? So this is why the Second World War was fought. And this is how now, remember, they needed America. So Pax America came in because America helped them to overthrow Russia and defeat, you know what I mean, the Allies in World War I. I mean, not the Allies, but to defeat Russia and their allies in World War I. And then they turned around and used America again to defeat, you know what I'm saying, all of the people, Germany's allies and all of them, right? So that they could create this state of Israel, okay? So now you see why Pax Americana had to come back. They said peace, but no, America was running around here, you know, declaring war on everybody, right? The same way Britain came over here and they took over this land, America, from the Native Americans, right? So you see, they claim Pax and say peace, but really their hearts are full of war, okay? Anyway, so the Second World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences between the fascists and the political Zionists. This war must be brought about so that Nazism is destroyed and that the political Zionism be strong enough to institute a sovereign state of Israel and Palestine. That's exactly what they done. During the Second World War, international communism must become strong enough in order to balance Christendom, right? So they've used American Christians to help them, but they were really, and a long game was to balance Christian, to make sure Christianity doesn't continue to spread, right? Which would be then restrained and held in check until the time when we would need it for the final social cataclysm, right? So now, they wanted to hold back Christianity from people to become Christians, right? So that they could use, so you know this ain't nothing but the synagogue of Satan. You know this ain't nothing but the devil, right? So they done all of that so that they could basically get Israel down there. And that's why they told all these American Christians, you got to support, you know what I'm saying, the Jewish people going back to their homeland, and dupe them into believing that those people that was coming out of Europe were actually the true children of Israel when they know they weren't, right? These were the Jews who say they are Jews and are not but the synagogue of Satan, right? So now they pulled them down here so they could have this. Why? Because they want to have this next war between Islam and the Jewish people, right? The Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agentur of the synagogue of Satan, right, between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and political Zionism, the state of Israel, mutually destroy each other, right? So the synagogue of Satan, they know that these people over there claiming to be us, they know they're not the real people, right? And they know they have been there the whole time to provoke and to pick wars with the Muslims, right? So this is, I mean, I'm telling you, they cunning. They play the long game, right? Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economical exhaustion. So they want everybody to fight and get absolutely tired of war. So this is why everybody's telling you that war is coming. You got, you know what I'm saying, nation rising against nation, which is the Bible tells us all this, right? They ain't telling us nothing that we don't know, right? And this is what they say. We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists. Now, mind you, this is the synagogue of Satan, the Illuminati, however you want to call them, saying they're going to unleash the nihilists and the atheists. Well, they done created all these atheists, these people that don't believe in God, right? They done created all of them. Now they get them stirred up and have them running out here because these people don't have no hope. So yeah, they're going to rob and steal and kill and do everything else to survive, right? So this is what they're doing. They're going to undermine everything, make things tough, and then allow these people that don't have no faith and no belief in anything to run around here killing and pillaging and doing all kinds of stuff, right? So this is what it said: we shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm, which in all its horror will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, origin of savagery, and of the most bloody turmoil. See? So Satan come down here, you know what I mean, and got these people to the point that they trying to unleash hell on earth. You see? Then everywhere, the citizens obliged to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries will exterminate those destroyers of civilization, right? So now they're expecting all the citizens of the world to stand up against these atheist people and be tired of religion, right? And the multitude disillusioned with Christianity, right? So you see, that's why everybody's always talking against Christianity. You see what I'm saying? They don't want people to accept the Messiah, right? They gave us a false form of Christianity that now they're starting to hit them and make people come out of that. But see, where they did not understand, where the Most High that moved into position and checkmated them, was by telling us who we are and saying, hey, no, y'all are the original Hebrews, y'all are the original Israelites, and y'all are the original Christians, right? It's you. So the bottom line is, now that we know this, you see, we know that our Messiah, and we're not going to get disillusioned with anything. We know now we got to cleave to the Most High Yah. We got to pray for him to fill us with his Holy Spirit. And we know now this thing is not going to tear us up. This thing going to tear y'all up, right? Because he's drawing you down here into the valley of Jehoshaphat so he can judge all you heathens, right? So anyway, so you see the Most High, yeah, y'all thought y'all was so smart. Y'all was doing all this, and he let y'all do everything, and we already know what's going to happen to you before it happens, right? But go on down there, take your butts down there, so you can get judged with your lying selves. Anyway, whose deistic spirits will from that moment be without compass or direction, anxious for an ideal, but without knowing where to render its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer. And see, that's why they said they're going to make people worship that beast, that final kingdom, right? They're going to make you take that mark. And if you take that mark, the Father said, I'm going to judge you, and you're going to go through the wrath of God. So you better not take it, right? Verse, let's finish this. This manifestation will result from the general reactionary movement, which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, right? Both conquered and exterminated at the same time. So they basically want to bring in the worship of Lucifer, right? So this is who these people are, the synagogue of Satan. That's why they done drug their butt down there, lied, said they are us, and tried to go here and make everything look like it's Bible prophecy being fulfilled to deceive these ignorant Christians, that they got these pastors going over there to Israel and they're brainwashing them and telling them to bring this garbage back over here and to completely, befuddle their congregations. Let's go back to the Kim Iversen clip.
Well, it's proven that they can't really do that here, right? I mean, COVID really sort of proved that. During COVID, I think that was an eye-opener for many of us, where I realized, wow, I'm glad I'm an American living in the United States, where I can live, I can move to a different state at least. Maybe my state's too harsh, but I can move to a different state. I could travel to a different part of the country and live how I want to live. And so many Americans completely rejected all of the mandates, rejected the surveillance, rejected all of that, more so than many parts of the world. I mean, we were shocked. Yeah, right. Yeah,
that's why the elite needs to throwing down America, because America is the greatest resistance to this Pax Judaica, this transhumanist AI surveillance agenda. Every other nation has fallen, right? You look at Canada, you look at Europe, you look at China. Everyone else has fallen. The last opposition is America.
Right. And maybe Africa. We don't really know what's going on there. I mean, they didn't with COVID. It's like non-existent in Africa entirely, but I'm sure they've got mechanisms to get them under control here pretty soon.
Poor Kim Iversen, she thinks she throw Africa. What are you throwing Africa in there for? Africa ain't got nothing. It showed y'all the clip where the guy sit up there talking about, they have intentionally made sure that Africa stay poor. You know what I'm saying? Africa got all that natural resources over there, and they the poorest of the poor. You know what I'm saying? You talk about Africa. You know what I'm saying? Y'all grasping for straws. Y'all reaching for anything, you know what I'm saying? Because that, you know what I'm saying, these people are now working against you, right? They're in the process of trying to tear you down, you know what I'm saying, so that they can bring these Jewish people, and y'all were the ones who supported them running around here destroying other people's civilizations, right? It didn't matter to you when other people's civilizations were being destroyed. But now that they're starting to, you know what I mean, wait a minute, Trump, why are you extending the military here, 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 here? Why are you going all over the place? What's this all about? Why are you engaging us in all these wars? Why are you making us raising more tribute and sending more and more money over there to Israel? Why are y'all doing that? Don't you see what they're doing? They shifting military dominance from over here to over there, right? Everything that they're doing, everything Trump is doing. But see, that's why I knew. I was telling people, they're not going to let Kamala Harris win. She can't take this country to war. You know what I'm saying? They're going to wait till, you know what I mean? They got all these people, oh, Trump, make America great again, make America great again, right? Got all them into this political crap. And that's why all these people who talk politically, they don't understand what's going on spiritually, right? They want to talk about Israel. Oh, you know, maybe Israel's the Palestinians, maybe Israel, whatever. Y'all don't want to acknowledge the fact that the true Hebrews got put on slave ships and scattered all over the world. You see what I'm saying? It tells you right then and there. But y'all still want to believe them people who they are. And they're doing that to make you lose your faith in Christianity and in your religion, right? Because they done told you that Jesus was white. He ain't. You see what I'm saying? This is why y'all can't figure out who the true Hebrew Israelites are. And the fact that you can't figure out who the true Hebrew Israelites are, y'all are befuddled, wondering why is God's chosen people doing this to these daggone other people? I thought they were supposed to be loving and kind, right? Y'all don't know where to put your adoration. So you see, they are working that script, like Albert Pike said, they're working it on you right now, right? But the bottom line is either y'all gonna listen, you're gonna humble yourselves and realize that you've been lied to. That's why the scripture says that the Gentiles are gonna come and say that our fathers have inherited lies. That's the only way y'all gonna be able to figure any of this stuff out, right? And as far as us, our people, hey, y'all better wake up. You see what I'm saying? Y'all know who you are. You know who got put on slave ships and scattered all over the world. You know who they was calling, N words and every daggone other word they could think of, right? But now here we are sitting up here, don't know anything. You know what I'm saying? And took on the ways of the heathen, running around here reprobate minded and every daggone thing else, right? And you supposed to be the true people of the Most High Yah, right? Better figure this stuff out. You know what I mean? People want to look at all this other stuff, you know what I mean? All this other nonsense or whatever about what celebrity is sleeping with what celebrity, instead of looking at programs, you know what I'm saying, where we're trying to teach you and trying to explain to you, you know what I'm saying, what's getting ready to come upon the earth, right? You see? That's why I be listening to them people. They be listening to us, trying to figure out what we know. So why not listen to them and figure out what they know? Let's go back to the clip.
But yeah, you're right. The United States is the last bastion of actual freedom because there's just so many of us that are so resistant. So so in that regard, they cannot actually stay here. The money, if you're saying the money moved from Pax Britannica to Pax Americana and it's going to move again, it's because they can't control the United States. They can't surveil it fast enough. Like there's just too many issues with that. So they've got to go where they can do all of that. And you're right. I mean, Israel has been one of the first to implement many of these measures, and they always do it under the guise of security.
Well, Gaza was an AI surveillance state for the longest time, so they have all this technology in place. They have all the systems in place. So it's a proven model. They just have to scale it now.
So certainly, I encourage everybody to watch your series, and the one in particular, I think it was Secretive History. Is that what it was? Your Secretive History series, and then you had the Pax, and then you had the Pax Judaica, kind of the finale, or one of the things that you talked about. And that is a frightening episode to watch. Everybody should watch it, but it's frightening because of how accurate it feels. Where it's like going from the Zionist, in a way that I hadn't even put it together, with the Battle of Gog and Magog, and the world goes and tries to, topple Israel. And a lot of people thought, oh, that's what's happening now. It's that this battle is happening now. A lot of Christian Zionists, salivate at the idea that maybe it's happening right now, because that means the second coming is sooner than later. But your theory is no, that's actually in a little while longer. That's after Pax Judaica is formed and the center of the world becomes Israel. And when that is the actual controlling new dominant center.
All right. So now I'm going to let y'all see part of his video that she was talking about that's so scary and all this type of stuff, right? These people, you're so scared. Why aren't you getting anchored in the Father? You know what I'm saying? Why aren't you crying out to him if you're so scared? Well, let's go and check out this clip from him.
So let's discuss what will happen in the short term and in the long term if Pax Judaica really is the end goal, okay? So right now you have Israel fighting wars everywhere, okay? The main enemy right now is Iran. In Europe, you have the Europeans about to go to war with Russia in Ukraine. America right now is threatening to attack Venezuela, okay? South America. You have 10% of the US Navy in the Caribbean, and they're about to attack Venezuela. You have China and Japan at conflict. You have India here, and you have Africa, okay? So what's gonna happen in the short term? Okay, well, what we know is that Europe is planning to go to war with Russia. Okay. Europe is about to go to war with Russia, okay? At the same time, you have a lot of immigrants in Europe. And this is gonna create civil wars in Europe. Okay, civil war. So you have both war with Russia as well as civil war. So Europe is kind of screwed, okay? America has the same situation where the left-right divide is so polarized that eventually they'll go to war.
All right, so you see, Mark chapter 3, verse 25, what does it say? And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand, right? So you see how they run around in everybody else's country causing division, right? You know, now, and just like in what he just said in America, left versus right, right? Get them into civil disputes, make them weak from the inside out. You can come and divide them, and then you can come and conquer them. Let's go back to the clip.
And you can argue that's all deliberate because the idea is this. Let's just say you have a jar. You put red ants in the jar and black ants in a jar. They get along fine. But you take the jar and you just shake it up, and now they're at war with each other, okay? That's what's happening where the left and right, they really don't like each other. They don't talk to each other, and they refuse to engage in debate with each other. But they're not going to fight each other unless there's violence. In which case, their tribal mentality takes over and they start killing each other, okay? So we're going to expect civil war in the United States. Then you're going to have the Americans start to attack Venezuela and possibly other countries in South America. So America is in for a bad time, okay? China, yeah, I mean, Japan and China and India, they're all going to have conflicts with each other. But also, what we should expect is that America starts to embargo China, meaning America uses its sea power to block China from accessing resources from overseas. And China imports most of its oil and a lot of its food. So if there's a blockade of China, you can expect the Chinese economy to really suffer, okay? All right, and then what we can expect to happen is America at some point will go to war with Iran. And this will destroy both countries, okay? Iran will not lose this war, but it won't win this war either because America is just gonna bomb the crap out of Iran. It's just gonna send Iran back decades. But America will lose this war, but this is important because if America loses this war, it's forced out of the Middle East. And once it's forced out of the Middle East, all its military assets goes to Israel, which creates the Pax Judaica. Yeah, does that make sense, guys?
All right. Now, keep in mind what he just showed, right? He wants America. He said that they want America to get into it with Iran. So that's one war that America's fighting. Then you got America having, civil disturbance here at home. Then you have America getting engaged with, the South American, people in Venezuela, Colombia, and all those South American countries. And then, America to get involved in a conflict, with China, trying to blockade China. Then America now going up here into Greenland and confronting Russia. So now if America is engaged in all of these wars and all these things, what's going to happen? And like I said, America sooner or later will have to come back. And if you go in here and you then took out all of these countries in here, Israel will go in and take over after you've done all the dirty work, right? Why you think now they're calling for all of these Jewish people to leave America and to go back over to Israel, right? So you see, they're setting America up to be destroyed, right? But let's go back to his video.
That's the plan. Okay, now you have Pax Judaica. And what Pax Judaica will do is start to control the world. Because through chaos and conflict, Pax Judaica can make a lot of money, right? Because Pax Judaica, what's going to happen is that you have these technology companies like Google, they're going to move over to Pax Judaica and build a global surveillance state. You have civil wars, you need AI to control people. If you're going to war with Russia, you need weapons, okay? But you also need financing as well. So you can expect a lot of banks to move to Israel, and it's possible Israel becomes now the global reserve currency because everyone is trading with Israel. If you're Russia, you need to trade your resources, right? Oil, energy, and grain, okay? So Russia controls a third of the world's carbohydrates. Guess what, guys? Israel controls Africa. So what will happen is that Russia and other countries will sign a trade agreement with Israel, and Israel becomes the center of global trade. Okay? Does that make sense? So this is how Pax Judaica will profit. And remember that Israel has the world's best intelligence agency, the Mossad. And what they can do is go around the world and create as much chaos as possible. Okay? So while the world is burning, Israel, Pax Judaica, is profiting. And that's what the future looks like for the next 10, 20 years. And this will, of course, lead to the rise of the Antichrist, who will take control of Pax Judaica and force the world to eventually attack Israel in something called the War of Gog and Magog. And this will, of course, lead to the second coming of Jesus. So that's a grand plan, okay? All right?
All right. So you see, towards the end, everything pretty much was on point, and I could see most of what he was saying, except for, that part about the Antichrist and then Gog and Magog. We know Gog and Magog happens after, the millennial year reign. All you got to do is read Revelation chapter 20, you know what I'm saying? And then you'll see, read Revelation 19, read Revelation 20, you'll see that Gog and Magog comes down after Christ has come back and started the millennial year reign. So this is where they be lying and they don't be telling people, and that's where that false end time prophecy comes into being, okay? But you know what I'm saying? As far as everything else that he's saying, about Israel controlling Africa, you see Israel was trying to go down there and get a foothold in Africa, but basically Britain and France was the ones that was really controlling Africa all these years, and the Dutch, you know what I'm saying? Well, of course, so that's what I'm saying. The synagogue of Satan, they're really all working together. It's really not the nation Israel. It's the synagogue of Satan powers that come up out of Europe, who basically established America as their military arm. And those people who, now they took over Europe. They're trying to go down there. They've already, basically colonized Africa. They're trying to colonize the Middle East, which leaves Russia and China, you see? And they're trying to attack Iran. So you see what they're trying to do is gradually take over the whole entire world, right? You know what I'm saying? But now, whether they shift everything, all the focus off of America, you know what I'm saying? Because they, you think about it, they got away from the Eastern Hemisphere by moving everything over to America, right? But, with America, they taught everybody, freedom of speech. We got liberal. We don't have to listen to the government. We rebel against authority and all this type of stuff. Lady liberty. You see what I'm saying? And now what you have raised up is a bunch of people who don't respect authority. You know what I'm saying? Now that's the problem that they have with America. The very thing that you created is the very thing you got a problem with. But the one problem they also have with America is that America is, inhabited by Christians. Whether they don't understand the truth about the real Hebrew Messiah or not, they still believe in the Messiah, right? And you put chaos on them, they're going to cry out. You see what I'm saying? And this is where the Most High, will pour out His Spirit upon those who start crying out. That's why they're going to always have a problem with Christians, okay? But anyway, let's go back to, the Kim Iversen clip, you know what I mean, and completely let them two talk and have their discussion after y'all now know what she was talking about, the video that she saw.
I got to tell you, and then while I was watching your series and watching that episode in particular, when I went to Israel, and when I was there, I left feeling like, and I couldn't shake the feeling, and I just felt like this is going to be the new leader of the world. There's no way around it. They're going to be
I went to Israel.
the next
I went to Israel
great
as
power.
well, and I came away with the same feeling. I hate to say this, but when you visit Israel and you actually talk to people and you experience the culture, they really do aspire to be the world leader. They believe it's
And
their
they
destiny.
will. And I just think that they've got the ability to pull it off. I mean, you've got a population of very intelligent people, technologically advanced, developing tons of different, they've got a culture of development of all of AI, of surveillance, of security state stuff. So they've figured out how to infiltrate our governments and control our governments. They've got an entire, and there's a lot of big questions like why didn't, there were other players in the world like China and Russia that could have helped stop the genocide that was going on in Gaza. They could have just, I had a guest on, Larry Johnson last week saying that they could have just done a blockade and just said, we're going to economically sanction you until you stop doing what you're doing. But they didn't. And then that raises the question of why? Why didn't they step in? What kind of power does Israel have over them? Or what kind of relationship do they have that they're, and also one thing that I've always said is, Israel, this whole ally, our greatest ally, that's a one-way relationship. They will not stand with us. And this is another thing I said to Larry Johnson, is I said to him, look, if war breaks out between us and everybody, which it looks like that's where it's headed, then Israel is going to play neutral. They're going to suddenly become Switzerland. I mean, they're going to be like, oh, you're at war between China and Russia? Like, oh, we're friends with everybody. We don't want to make, we're just going to sit this one out. And we're going to deliver orange juice. I mean, that's all they did for us. Out of all the wars that we've done, they delivered some orange juice during the Korean War. Other than that, and I think it'll be the same sort of thing. They'll be like, oh, gee, you know what? We got our own problems and we don't really want to get involved with all of you. Best of luck to everybody. We're friends with you all. And whoever in the end wins, we're here. We're still here, right? So it's very much beneficial to them for the rest of us to go to war with each other. And they end up being the global leader.
Now, she asked the question, why didn't China and Russia jump in and try to stop them? The United States of America, right? It's all of y'all. Y'all the ones that support this garbage, right? Y'all the ones that sit up here and support this military and every daggone thing else. And now you see now that Americans are starting to speak out about it. You know what I'm saying? When you had the BDI, whatever thing it was, about the diversity investments or whatever that thing was, you know what I'm saying? They came out there and started stashing up college students and every daggone thing, right? Because the bottom line is America is the military arm. So China and Russia knows if we go into it and get with him, you know what I mean? If we go head to head, this is the end of the world as we know it, right? And I believe China and Russia, a lot of them are waiting for Americans to wake up, But the bottom line is, y'all the ones went running around here telling everybody that them people was us and continue to tell them people that they're us, right? But you know what? Another thing, when I was telling y'all, Charlie Kirk, you know what I'm saying? We're going to get to that, the Candace thing. I'm going to let this ride out, but we're going to get to that. Because remember, They said they want America to get into war with Iran. Charlie Kirk had advised Trump not to go to war with Iran. And I think that's what got Charlie Kirk in trouble. But I'm going to let Candace tell y'all that later on. Let's go back to this Kim Iversen clip, and then we're going to start drawing in what I'm showing about Candace and Tucker Carlson, because y'all got to see, you know what I'm saying? They don't like Americans who are speaking out against this false state of Israel. Let's go back to the clip.
Well, that's how they maintain the Pax Judaica, which is very similar to the Pax Britannica, right? Because England is a very small nation. It has very few resources. So the only way it can maintain power is by sowing discontent and chaos throughout the entire world. You can entirely blame World War I on the British. I mean, I know it's the Germans who got blamed, but it's really the British who caused World War I, and the senseless deaths of millions of people, right? So Britain has been sowing chaos for a few hundred years, and I think Israel will use the same strategy.
Yeah, don't underestimate because of size, right? You do have the UK, Great Britain is a small place, and they still dominated a huge, massive amount of the world. Same Japan, Imperial Japan had a lot of power, tiny little place. So don't underestimate on size.
Because we know that during the month of June, according to Tucker Carlson and other people who have come out and spoken about this, Charlie goes head to head with Bibi Netanyahu. And Charlie wins, by the way, in the moment. He lobbies in the month of June for President Trump not to get involved in Israel's war with Iran. He says just limit it to taking out their nuclear sites, anything more than that, and you're going to lose the base. And yet everybody around Trump is completely infiltrated. They're a bunch of Zionists. They're lobbying on behalf of Israel. No, do more, get involved. Charlie wins. Charlie was adamant that war with Iran would not benefit the Trump campaign, and it would not benefit the American people. And we can hear him in his own words on this, because I find it compelling that they want us to honor Charlie by not asking questions, donating money, but not by actually carrying forth his actual ideas, things that came out of his mouth, the issues that he was concerned with in the months leading up to his life. So let's listen to Charlie Kirk regarding the neocons who could buy their way, apparently, onto the Turning Point USA stage and their insistence that we need to go to war with Iran. Take a listen.
Let's do some updates about Israel and Iran and potentially the United States. On one side is the Lindsey Graham, John Bolton types, where they are actively calling for regime change. Here is Lindsey Graham. This is just lunacy. This kind of analysis is not helpful. This kind of approach, this kind of argument, it has nothing to do with nuclear weapons at this point. This is now that we want to go all in and take out the regime. It's time for us to close the chapter on the Iranian Ayatollah and his henchmen and start a new chapter in the Middle East. And that sounds good, doesn't it? But what have we learned when it comes to wars, and especially wars in the Middle East? What you draw up on a whiteboard rarely happens. What you think theoretically is going to occur, there might be unintended and unforeseen consequences, especially when you're talking about a country 2.5 times the size of Texas. It has 90 million people and was an ancient and great power with well over a dozen ethnic groups. You have underground Christians. You don't really have many Jews left in Persia. But also you have secular younger Persians. Who's going to run the country exactly, Lindsey Graham? This sounds like Hillary Rodham Clinton in Libya.
All right. So remember I told you I was going to come back to Revelation 13. So let's go back to Revelation 13. All right. We pick it up verse 2. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power. So this final kingdom gets its power from Satan, Lucifer, and his seat and great authority. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. and they worshiped the dragon. Who is the dragon? Satan, okay? Which gave power unto the beast, gave power to this final kingdom. And they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things in blasphemy, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months, okay, 3.5 years. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God. So we're waiting for somebody to come on the scene that's going to be a major blasphemer, okay? To blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven, okay? And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him. So this final kingdom, remember, has to go global before Christ comes back to set up his kingdom, right? And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. So you either believe, you're either going to get in and get filled with the Holy Spirit, or you're not, right? If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. And he exercised all the power of the first beast before him. Here is your son of perdition right here, right? He has 2 horns like a lamb, so he comes in like a lamb being peaceable, but he speaks like a dragon, right? He's going to blaspheme, right? And he exercised all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them that which dwell therein to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed. So to worship this kingdom. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. Is this going to be AI, right? That the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many would not worship the image of the beast should be killed, right? Because you see, they got all kinds of technology, surveillance, AI, and all this type of stuff that they might unleash, right? If this is the fulfillment, right? And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. Now, remember what the guy said about, you know what I mean? Israel may become the center of the world financial currency, right? So if that be the case, then they come with this digital mark, it would make sense, right? And that no man might buy or sell, you see, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. So this Pax Judaica could literally be the fulfillment of this final kingdom, right? But this is why we pray, and we got to watch, because we only know in part, but we got to watch in time, so that as more time goes on, everything starts making more sense, and we can see, according to the Bible, oh, this is what this is. Okay, we got it now.
Something that is happening at the same time, obviously, is that all of these people seem to be radically obsessed with Israel. It's another component of this. It's just, you can't let Israel go. It's almost as if the Mossad and the CIA, there is no separation between the two. It's why Bibi used to work for the CIA. If you've followed past episodes that we've done, I think we uncovered that during our Epstein series, but don't quote me on that. It feels like that is the strand that explains everything. Like our entire media is bought and paid for. Everything is in service of this foreign country. And they're growing increasingly dangerous, increasingly more radical, increasingly more desperate, despite having the entire United States military at their beck and call and being able to, mass murder American troops to fulfill their interests overseas. They are coming to terms with the fact that they're losing a grip on public opinion, which means a lot, actually. Okay. It's important that the illusion, or it was important that the illusion of their victimhood was kept. I think that's something that Bibi Netanyahu actually underestimated. He underestimated how much of it, he was like the magician who believed in his own magic. He underestimated how much of it was successful in convincing all of us to be Zionists because we were operating under the illusion that they were innocent. And he went too far. He killed too many people. Gaza woke up a lot of people. And now they're pretending that the issue is not what they're doing. It's never what they're actually doing. It's not that they're being accused by their own people of conducting and covering up these sex rituals against children in their forests. It's not because of the fact that tens of thousands of innocent Palestinians have been killed and that they've been intentionally targeted because they're conducting a genocide. The problem is that we're noticing it. And the enemy, therefore, is speech. It's people on a platform speaking about their crimes that are problematic, not the crimes that they are committed. Again, this is the logic of psychopaths. Well, in the Knesset, it's like their Congress, there was a Likud party representative who got up and gave a speech and declared me and Tucker Carlson to be enemies of the state of Israel. Me and Tucker Carlson, who are calling for peace, we are calling for national sovereignty, we are calling for people in Congress to actually serve American interests, and that apparently represents an existential threat to Israel. Here is what he had to say.
Mr. Speaker, members of the Knesset, I stand here in Jerusalem, the eternal capital of the Jewish people, to sound an alarm. We are used to enemies from outside. We fight terror tunnels of Hamas. We fight the ballistic missiles of Iran. But today, I look at the West, our greatest ally, and I see a new enemy rising from within. I am speaking of a poison being sold to the American people as patriotism. I'm speaking of the intellectual vandalism of Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. Mr. Speaker, let us be clear about what this is. They claim to fight the woke left. They are no different than the woke left. The radical left tears down the statues of Thomas Jefferson. Tucker Carlson tears down the legacy of Winston Churchill. The radical left says Western civilization is evil. Candace Owens says the roots of our faith are demonic. It is the same sickness. It is the same moral relativism. It is the same hatred of the West dressed up in a different costume.
Yes, to be clear, that is dangerous. The Likud party, and I was quite literally, somebody was plotting my murder. Actually, a year from the date that Charlie was murdered on September 10th, someone was plotting my murder and got discovered, and that's still making its way through the courts. These people are calling for violence. That's the implicit threat here. They're all growing increasingly more radical, and they're feeling threatened by speech, which is why I implore all of you, which I see that you are, which is why they feel threatened, to continue to use it.
All right, so as you can see, here these people are over there in their Congress speaking out against two American citizens, right? Speaking out against two American citizens. Why ain't America saying, hey, y'all better reel that in? You don't talk against my people. They got freedom of speech. That's what they can do. We allow that here. But no, you see what I'm saying? These people really think that they can limit the free speech of Americans. Let me show you another clip.
This is pretty crazy. An Israeli cybersecurity CEO is going on CNBC and telling Americans publicly that they need to have their First Amendment right restricted, as if he even goes here, as if he even lives in America. This is pretty wild. Take a listen to this.
I mean that we need to control the platforms, all the social platforms. We need to stack rank the authenticity of every person that expresses themselves online and take control over what they are saying based on that ranking.
The government should control the social media.
Yeah, and I know it's difficult to hear, but it's time to limit the First Amendment in order to protect it, and quickly before it's too late.
What do you mean?
So there you go. It's time to limit the First Amendment in order to protect it before it's too late. He's not even an American. The guy's not even an American, and I kid you not, his name is Shlomo Kramer. He said this very, very recently on CNBC, and he's telling Americans apparently what they should be doing as if he goes here for what? For Israel's security.
So you see, right? They're not only just targeting Candace and Tucker Carlson, right? They're targeting everybody that's online that speaks against them. And these people want to stop it. Why? Pax Judaica, right? And there's no way they could stop anybody's social media except they got AI, right? Except they have already built these systems to monitor what you say online, right? So you can see where they're going, right? You can see the digital currencies that they're getting ready to try to pull. And you can see why they have to get rid of the American dollar and replace it with digital currency, right? Everything makes sense with this, you know? That's the reason why I think they honestly are trying to pull and now tell all these Jewish people, y'all get back over here, you know? Because they're letting them know we're about ready to, you know, burn America to the ground, right? We'll see. That's all I can say. With that being said, thank y'all for watching. You know what I'm saying? Till we meet again, we're going to get out of here with my man, Cuddy Judah. Most I bless you all. Shalom.
Though I walk through the valley of death, shadows whisper, still in my breath. The ground feels cold, like it's alive. Each step a battle, just to survive. Though I walk alone through the dark, through the storm, but I'm not afraid. No, I'm not afraid. No, I'm not afraid. A light inside, it's my barricade. The trees, they shiver, they bend and creak. The wind, it howls, the future bleak. Yet my heart beats loud, a steady drum. It tells the night I won't succumb. They can't break me, no they won't, no they won't. My soul's on fire, they don't know. Though I walk alone through the dark, through the storm, but I'm not afraid. No, I'm not afraid. No, I'm not afraid. A light inside, it's my barricade.